Good afternoon, everybody. We're just looking at a bird that joined us in the classroom. Maybe it's a future competitor, our first avian competitor. Anyway, good afternoon, good evening, good middle of the night, good morning, whatever part of the world you are tuning into, we want to welcome you here with us. I'm Jill Zandy. I'm the President and Executive Director of Mate Inspiration for Innovation and a co-founding mom, if you will, of the Mate ROV competition. Joined here today by Mr. Matthew Gardner.
Hi, everyone.
Mate's ROV competition technical manager, lead instructor, PVC artist. And behind the camera is Miss Tawny Gott.
Hi, everybody.
She's there. She's kind of waving. Tawny is the Mate Inspiration for Innovation Operations Manager and the C-Mate Store Business Manager. So any of you who have made purchases or plan to purchase items from our store, you will likely interact with Tawny. So I want to welcome you all here. We are here for the Scout Prop Demonstration and Question and Answer Facebook Live. The crowd goes wild. The bird is still here. If you joined us yesterday, you know that yesterday, Thursday, March 17th, happy St. Patrick's Day belated, we covered Explorer, Pioneer, Ranger, and Navigator all in one Facebook Live. That was a long one, Matt.
Yep.
Great. Like, Matt had it organized. He had it together. Wasn't doubting that for a minute. That Facebook Live is still on our Facebook competition page, and we will also pull down the videos from that and post them to Vimeo and YouTube. So if you missed it, or if you just want to go back because you didn't catch everything, can't remember everything that we said, you will have an opportunity to do that. But today we're focused on the Scout class. And again, this will live on our Facebook page. The video will be pulled down and posted on Vimeo and also on YouTube, linked everywhere so you will have access to it. So this is great. This is an opportunity for you to ask tons of questions of Mr. Matt Gardner when it comes to the props, the missions, the points, all of that. We love, 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 love questions. So please type them in, whatever you need to do to get them to us. A couple of things I wanted to note. We talked about this yesterday. It had been, 2 years? We decided over 2 years since we were last doing Facebook Lives. Got a little warmed up yesterday, feeling a little bit better. You know, it'd been a long time since we were doing these things. We are so excited this year to be focused on the UN Decade of the Ocean, and Mate inspires ESG, environmental, social, governance, all those wonderful factors that more and more businesses and corporations are taking into consideration when they make business decisions. It's really all about making sure we have a sustainable future, both an ocean future and a planet future, although we all know this is a blue planet. We, again, so excited to be focused on the UN Decade of the Ocean. We are endorsed UN Decade of the Ocean activity. We're so excited to have that designation and are pleased to be part of this, what will be 10 years of celebrating our world ocean. You know by now the task, right? Marine renewable energies with a focus on offshore wind farms. You know that we're focused on blue carbon and seagrass beds. You know that we're focused on offshore aquaculture, which was going to be needed to feed our growing population. And finally, Antarctica, right? In addition to launching technologies to help us understand more about the impact of climate change in Antarctica, we're also focused on the endurance. And what an amazing discovery. Hopefully you saw that on March 9th, the expedition found Ernest Shackleton's Endurance in really great shape, at the bottom of the Weddell Sea. If you haven't taken that in, take it in. We were so pleased to be affiliated with that expedition and to be challenging you to the same task, finding the shipwreck and documenting it. A couple other things. So here we are, we're at Monterey Peninsula College. We're on campus here. Matt and I are social distancing. Tawny's behind the camera with her mask on. So we are being compliant with the regulations here on campus. And there's the bird. Oh, the bird. We'll have to get it out later. Poor bird. But just wanted to point that out. I think that's it for me. I'm going to, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Matt Gardner to go through Scout stuff. And don't forget to type in your questions. There you go, Matt.
Excellent. Thank you, Jill. So, yeah, as Jill said, as you know, I'm going to go through the product demonstration tasks I'm going to talk about each task, kind of demonstrate it. If you have questions or you need clarification, please write in. Joe will let me know, and we'll do our best to answer your questions. Now, I'm going to go through the tasks in order, but in general, you can do these mission tasks in any order you want. So for example, you could pick up the seagrass, go grab the damaged section of cable from task 1, head up to the surface with both of those, drop those off, get the new seagrass and a hydrophone, bring those down. So really, you can do it in whatever order you want. And all of that is in the manual. And so one other thing about the order. So today, I'm going to be going through the tasks in order. So if you have a question about task 3, just wait until we're at task 3 to, before you answer that. Sorry, the birds flying around. It's very distracting. So yeah, just wait till task 3, we'll get there. And if we moved on and we're in the middle of task 2, and you remember that question you wanted to ask about task 1, just wait until the end. I guarantee we will not leave this Facebook Live until we've answered everyone's questions. Okay? So we're going to get going, and we're going to start with task 1, marine renewable energies, replacing a damaged section of the inter-array cable. So here is the cable buildup. It's actually got a lot of task 1 parts on it. So the first one is removing a damaged section of cable. So this cable is going to be in this little cradle. It has a rope with a little float, so this will be floating up. And you get 5 points for getting this out of the cradle, removing the damaged section of cable. And in this case, it has to be out of the cable, out of the cradle, so not touching that, under control of your ROV. You get 5 points for that. And then you get 5 more points when you bring it up to the surface and set it on the surface side of the pool. Now, on the surface side of the pool, you are going to have a different cable, and this is a new one that you have to bring down. So again, you load this up at the surface, bring it down, put it in the cradle, and in the cradle means that it's in both cradles. So that wouldn't count because it's only in one. It does have to be in both. Drop it there, so once it's away from the ROV, your ROV is away from it, you get your 10 points. And I just want to mention, since I do get asked this a lot, I kind of talked about it earlier, but you can bring down multiple things at once. If you have an ROV that can bring down 2, 3, 4 things at once, you can do that. So there's nothing that says you only have to do one thing at a time. Okay, any questions about task 1.1 yet?
No, nothing
Okay,
so far,
good.
but Maureen Barrett and the HMS Seabots are tuned in.
Excellent.
Hey, Maureen. Hey,
Excellent.
Seabots.
Okay, so task 1.2, attaching buoyancy modules to an inter-array cable of a floating offshore wind turbine. So on this end, where the blue pipe is, you're going to have this little floating thing here connected by a screw hook to a floating rope here. You need to detach this, so get it off of there. You get points for that. And then again, so you get 5 points for removing the failed buoyancy module, and then 5 more points when you return this to the surface side of the pool. And again, just like the last task, on the surface side of the pool, there's going to be a second one, exact same design. You're going to take this one in your ROV, bring it down, and you need to hook it onto this rope. And once you've released it from the ROV, it is hooked on here, so clear the ROV, and on this rope, you get your 10 points for that. Okay, so then that is attaching the new buoyancy module. So, task 1.3, supporting environmental impact studies, deploying a hydrophone to detect and record the presence of marine mammals. So also, on the surface side of the pool, you are going to have your hydrophone, and this is designed. There's holes in the top of this, but there's some flotation in there. And that flotation is enough to hold this and this up off the bottom, but overall this is going to be slightly negatively buoyant. So you're going to bring this down, and you can carry it by anything you want. You can carry it by here, here, anywhere. And you are going to bring this down, and you are going to set it into the orange square. Now the base of this has to be completely within the orange square. So that wouldn't work. That of course wouldn't work. Even if it's fairly up on top, that wouldn't work. It has to be all the way in there. And when you do that, you get points for deploying it. Okay, now what you need to do is this needs to be in here for 2 minutes. And when you place this in here, the judge is going to mark down on the score sheet what time you deployed this. And then after 2 minutes have elapsed, you can bring this back to the surface, and you get points once it's back up on the side of the pool out of here. Now, of course, during those 2 minutes that it's sitting in here, you don't have to be sitting here waiting for it. You should be doing other tasks, okay? So, but once 2 minutes have passed, the judge will tell you, you can keep track of that yourself, and you can go, okay, it's time. You are now ready to bring this back to the surface side of the pool. And again, I gave this hint to teams yesterday. It's not much of a hint, but since this has to be in there for 2 minutes, you probably don't want to wait till the last 2.5 minutes of your mission to deploy this if you want the points for getting it back. So maybe think about putting this in there a little bit earlier in your mission time, so you have plenty of time to rack up those 2 minutes and get it back to the surface. Okay, so the next part of task 1.3, supporting environmental impact studies, is removing a ghost net caught on the wind turbine substructure. So on this end of the wind turbine substructure, there's going to be this ghost net. It's going to be floating up like this, and there's going to be a pin. Again, a rope to grab loop, but you could also grab it anywhere you want. And the first part of this is pull the pin, so you pull this out, and once you have pulled the pin, you get some points. And also once you've done that, this is positively buoyant, so up it's going to go to the surface. Now this pin is not considered debris, so you can leave it on the bottom if you want. We're simulating cutting of a rope, so it's not actually like you're leaving something on the bottom. Anyway, this will pop up to the surface, positively buoyant, and then you get points for getting this back to the surface side of the pool. So grab it, push it with your RV, and once you put it on the surface side of the pool, you get your points.
Matt,
Yes?
will the pin be pink?
It might be. If you're at the Monterey Regional, all the pins will be that color of pink. Probably most other regionals, yeah, I recommend for regional coordinators, paint your pin just because it makes it a little bit easier to see as scout teams are looking down from the surface. Okay, so that is it for task 1. Do you have any questions about task 1?
No, we don't, but
Okay.
Sharon Bird and
Sharon?
Eagle Enterprise are tuning in, and so, you know, I'm partial. You knew we weren't gonna get through 2 Facebook Lives without me talking about my Philadelphia Eagles, even though it's not football season. So Sharon Bird, Eagle Enterprise, love the name. They released Fletcher Cox. Matt, we gotta talk about that
Yep,
later.
yep.
Later,
Yeah,
yeah, not Eagles football today, but anyway, there you go. Keep
Yep.
going. No other questions.
So anyway, hi Sharon and team. It's been a while since we've seen her here in Monterey. Don't remember what years you came to workshops, but it's been a while. Okay, moving on to task 2, offshore aquaculture and blue carbon, inspecting an offshore aquaculture fish pen. I'm just going to move this so Connie has a little more room. So task 2, you are going to have your aquaculture netting here. Just a little area of netting, and it's going to have this hole in the middle. And so the first thing you're going to be doing is repairing a damaged section of netting. So up on the surface, you're going to have your net repair kit, and again, it's got these 2 hooks there, and you're going to carry this down, and you are going to secure it so both hooks go through, and when it's hanging there, anywhere on here, you get your points for repairing that net. So it actually doesn't have to cover that hole all the way, so even if you get it down there, as long as you have it hanging from that netting, you're good to go with your points. Okay, and then you're going to be removing marine growths from here, from the netting. So you have 3 encrusting marine growths. These are just PVC crosses painted red, and they are held on, some Velcro there, and a little bit of Velcro here. You don't want it too much Velcro because it's too hard to get stuck, but they just barely stick. And then your job is to pull these off, knock these off, however you can get them off of the net. And again, you don't have to bring these back to the surface. Just once they are no longer touching this net, you get your points. So you get 5 points each, 15 points total since there are 3 of them. And then the second part of this is the algal marine growth going to be sticking out, coincide. So here we have 1, 2, 3. Now these are just pipe cleaner chenille strips with a little bit of the end twisted, and they are inserted into 3/16 inch holes. So they just kind of sit there like that. And you get, as you pull these out, you get 5 points, 10 points, 15 points. And again, These don't have to be brought up. You can leave them on the bottom, or you can bring them back up if you want if they're on your ROV, and you get points for that.
Matt, we have a question
Excellent.
from Maureen. What if only one hook of the patch is attached to the net?
You do need both.
You need
I
both, yeah.
will need to double check that in the manual, but I believe it says you need both hooks attached to that netting. So you just have to readjust, you know, if you did only have one like that, just, you know, kind of pick it up and push it in there so it hooks on there fairly easily. Great question.
Yes.
Okay, so the next part is maintaining a healthy environment for fish stock, managing mortalities by removing warts from the fish pen. So of course, on the bottom, you're gonna have this plastic fish that's gonna have a little bit of weight inside of it, probably some rebar. So it's just negatively buoyant, so it's not floating. And again, it has this nice rope grab loop on it. It'll be sitting on the bottom. And scout teams, you need to grab this either by the loop or any way you can grab it. There's other ways you can grab it. And you get 5 points once you've collected this mort. So collecting it is this mort. This mortality is up off the bottom, under control of the ROV. Again, no longer touching the bottom. And then you get 5 more points when you return this to the surface. So bring it back up, surface side of the pool. Once it is out of the water on the side of the pool, you get your additional 5 points. Okay, and the last part of task 2 is farming seagrass. So there's going to be a chunk of seagrass on the bottom, and again, just PVC structure, and this is some little foam sheeting from the hobby store that's screwed on here. So it looks like seagrass. And this one needs to just come back up, and you get 5 points. When it comes back up, surface side of the pool, out of the water, you get your 5 points. Now, on the surface side of the pool, there is going to be another seagrass sample. Now this one's built a little differently, mostly the same, but it has this green plastic mesh on it. And any way you want to carry this down, and this has to go completely in the green square. So that would not be good enough. That wouldn't quite be good enough. But once it's all the way in there, it doesn't actually have to be upright, it can be like that. But once it's all the way in there, in that green square, you get your 5 points. Okay, so that is it for task 2. Any questions for task 2? Right in now. Okay.
Just chat with people.
Great.
It's fun.
Great. Okay, so task 3, Antarctica, then and now, endurance 22, and made floats. So the first part of this is mate floats recovering a Go BGC float to conduct diagnostics. So actually, Tani, we're going to head on over this way to the computer. And so the first part of this task is going to be doing some math.
Don't look at Matt's login.
No, I didn't have to log in today. So on your table or whatever in your mission station area, there's going to be some float information. There's going to be a paper with some current speed on it, current direction, and the time that that buoy is going to be underwater. And you need to figure out, this buoy, Go BGC buoy goes underwater, it's going to pop back up. You need to figure out where it's going to pop back up. So, again, you'll look at this. And in this example, we have 0.135 meters per second. The current direction is 103 degrees and the time is 144 hours. So doing the math, essentially converting 144 hours into seconds, how many meters, I calculated that the float is going to travel 69.984 kilometers at 103 degrees. And I just know from the compass that 90 degrees is due east, so 103 degrees is a little bit south from due east. And then I'm going to use some trigonometry. I'm going to talk a little bit about trigonometry later. But using trigonometry math, I calculated that the float moves 15.74 kilometers south and 68.19 kilometers east. So on our grid map, each of these squares is 5 square kilometers, so I'm going to divide those numbers by 5. And what that means is it moves 13.63 squares east. I'm going to round that up to 14 squares. and that is 3.148 squares moved south. So I'm going to round that to 3 squares. So, well, this is where we
Use your
started.
fingers for
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Thank you.
This is where we started. So 14 squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then 3 south, 1, 2, 3. And so this is a square I would estimate where this buoy is going to come back up. And of course, for scout teams, you get that square. You also, if you're within 1, so any of the squares adjacent to that, you will get your points. So I will say, we posted on the Scout Challenge page, there are 4 example problems of this. Just put out 4 kind of random floats, and you can use those to practice on. But I will say, I did just do one of them for you there. So I used one for this. Now the other thing, I said I was going to talk about a bit about trigonometry. I know that probably most, if not all scout teams, probably haven't had trigonometry in school yet. So my recommendation, talk to your math teacher, tell them, hey, this is a problem that they've given us. How do we solve it? I'm pretty sure your math teachers will be happy to work through those 4 problems with you, teach you just enough trigonometry to get you through this. And I'll also say there's some online right triangle calculators you can use, which is what I use, because I will admit I do not know my trigonometry by hand anymore, in my head anymore. It's been way too long since I've been in a trigonometry class. So anyway, like I say, even if you haven't had trigonometry, my guess is you'll be able to figure this out.
No questions, but
Okay.
Rachel McDonald
Oh, hi,
Hi, Rachel.
Rachel.
from Dolphin Island Sea Lab is watching us, and she is with little Adeline.
Aw.
Rachel, how old is Adeline now? I'm trying to remember. 5 months, 6 months? I lose track of time, but hello. We need a new picture of Adeline.
Okay, so once you've done the math, you can then go get the GoBGC buoy. And I will say that once you recover this GoBGC buoy, once you start recovering this GoBGC buoy, you can't get points for doing that math anymore. So if you want those points for math, you gotta wait till you do this GoBGC buoy. Now I'll say for another question, we had this yesterday, scout teams, you get 4 people of your team. If you have more than 4 people, you get 4 people on the mission deck. So a recommendation is, as one person does this math, the ROV can still be doing other things. So, maybe designate 1 or 2 people to do that math while the ROV does other things. So once you've done your math, this red square is going to be floating on the surface, a little bit away from the side of the pool. And the GoBGC float is going to be floating in here. And it floats, this is screwed on, but there's enough flotation in here so that this floats about 4 to 5 centimeters above the water. So pretty much just caps up, and you'll have this rope loop on the bottom, but you can grab it any way you want. So you need to get this underwater and then back to the surface side of the pool. So out from here, back to the surface side of the pool, put this on the pool deck, and you get your points.
Yay. All right, Adeline is 5 months. I was close, and she'll send a new photo.
Excellent.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yep. Okay, so task 3.2, Endurance 2022. As Joe was mentioning, they just found the Endurance. There's some great pictures of the stern with the name Endurance on it that they got from their ROV looking for it. Anyway, so we have our mock-up here out of PVC and brown paint of the Endurance. And for scout class teams, you are going to place a marker in each of the yellow squares. And these yellow squares will be somewhere near the bow and the stern, within a meter, half meter or so. And on the surface side of the pool, you're going to have these little float markers, and 1 float marker needs to go in each yellow square. So 1 in that one, and again, this is going to be negatively buoyant overall, but when you place it down, the end cap with a little bit of flotation in there is going to float. So there you get points. And the other one, again, has to be all the way in. So that would not count. That wouldn't count. Even if it's like that, it wouldn't count. It's got to be all the way in there, and you get your points. Okay. So the next, and coming up to the last part of the scout mission, is collecting benthic species. So the first part is collecting glass sponges, 5 points each, 10 points total. So on the bottom, there are going to be these glass sponges sitting on the bottom, and they have a little grab loop as well floating above them. And you need to grab these one or two at a time, get them back to the surface side of the pool. Once you have them on the surface side of the pool, that'd be 5 points for one, 5 points more, 10 points total for the second one. And then you're also going to be collecting brittle stars. Now this could be a little bit more of a challenge because there are no grab loop ropes or anything like that. You're going to need to figure out how to get 2 of these. And there's going to be a couple, more than 2, just sitting down on the bottom. So you're going to need to figure out a way to get at least 2 of these back to the surface. So again, up off the bottom, 5 points each, 10 points total, 4, 5, and 10. Now, if you scooped up a bunch of them and brought back 5 at once, that's fine, but you're not getting points for all 5. You just get your 10 points total. Okay, so that's it for the missions. I do have a little more general stuff to talk about, but if you have questions, now is the time to write them in. As I said, we'll try and get any questions you have answered.
I'm just gonna move this way, Matt.
Yep.
That door's
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of
sorry,
bright,
yeah,
so
light.
it's not your
I
fault.
think the bird, I opened the door
Good.
and the bird went out.
It's gone.
Perfect.
Woohoo!
Yeah, freed the bird, which is the most
Freed the
important thing.
We just wanna see your face, that's
Yeah,
all. We
yeah,
wanna
I-
see your face.
Yeah, backlighting, lighting is not the best in this room.
No.
Anyway, some general information as you're writing in those last minute questions. So everything has to be done during the product demonstration time. The scout teams, you're probably gonna have 10 minutes of in-water time to try and complete all this. Everything has to be done during that 10-minute time. So if you're doing the math at the very end and you come up with an answer, let that judge know before your time is up. Because if you tell the judge afterwards, hey, here's the answer, it's gonna be too late. You know, another thing I recommend for all teams, talk to your judges. Let them know what you're doing. As you're going around, you know, let them go, hey, you know, we're trying to get our brittle stars, and that way the judges just know that's what they should be scoring, that's what they're looking at. Okay, so if you have other questions about the props, how to build the props, we have our prop building instructions posted on the Scout Challenge page. Look for prop building instructions, and that will have pictures of all these props. They will have the dimensions, so as you make them yourself, you will know that these are, well, those red beams, they're either 49 or 50 centimeters, I think. I have to go look that up. We have posted the video fly-through. One of our former competitors, we gave him a shout out yesterday. Kendrick Bender was on a Explorer team 5-6 years ago. He does all these great video fly-throughs, so you can click on that, watch this video of ROV flying through and completing all these missions. The manual, if you want a little bit more detail about what constitutes doing a mission successfully or not, check the manual. There's a lot of information in there. And then finally, for all the other things, all the score sheets are or will soon be posted on the website. So if you want to know exactly how you're getting scored for all this, the Scout product demonstration score sheet is posted. You can look at that, go through and see exactly how you are going to be scored for these. Okay, any questions?
No,
Okay.
no, I asked Rachel what color. I asked her what color the pin to
Okay.
release the ghost net was going to be painted at the Northern Gulf Coast Regional. She said that they still have pink paint.
Yeah, so
So
I was
it
gonna say,
could be pink.
I will say, this is the exact same pink that any team last year, the coral samples that you had to pick up in the defense plan were pink, and I will probably say the T and those pieces there were probably part of a coral that got cut down for things, because
Remember, reuse, recycle.
reuse, recycle. I don't want to throw any PVC out, so I will say, when I start building these, the first thing I look is like, what have I got hanging around?
Yeah,
from
don't
past
throw
years?
up any
Yeah,
paint,
no, no,
use
no.
it all.
And this is really cool. Can I share this real
Sure.
quick? So Gabby Ashford, hello Gabby. She's a mentor of the Port Townsend Sea Dragons.
Go Sea Dragons, Port Angeles. Yeah, I'm from Port Angeles.
Okay,
so-
nearby. She said that they've been doing real world projects up there around the crab pots, and she said that they got called in to inspect chains holding critical infrastructure at a local port. They're about halfway through the project, so isn't that awesome? I mean, that's so
That is
congratulations,
very
Gabby and
cool.
the Sea Dragons. They're using their mate competition ROV for a real world, in the real world ocean, not in a swimming pool project. So that's fantastic. Keep us posted, Gabby, on that one.
And I will say, I think I did find, I've done some of the same things myself, because I'm, like I say, my family's from there and I go up there, so I think I've recovered a crab pot we found with an ROV, hooked a line to it, dragged it up. So
There you go.
great stuff, yeah. And that's like, we love it when people are doing real world things with their ROVs. So yeah, if you're ever doing that, anyone out there, just
Let us
drop
know,
us a
yeah,
line. Yeah, send us
sure.
an email. Say, hey, here's what we did with our. Sorry, I'm gonna digress a little bit, but we also had someone once, talking about crab pots. We had one essentially build an ROV crab pot that they could drive and set down on the bottom and then pick it up later. So some pretty neat stuff happening out there.
That's awesome.
Okay, so if there
Awesome,
aren't any
awesome.
more questions, we're gonna wrap this up. Jill will probably say a few things, but I will say, if you come up with more questions in the near future, or you have any questions about the mission props, remember, we have the Mate Forum board out there where you can ask all these questions. Sign into the competition forum board. There's a Scout and Navigator question section there. Type in your question and I will answer it as soon as I can, get to answering those questions for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So,
that's it for me.
awesome.
I'm going to turn it back over to you, Jill.
Thank you. And we freed the bird. We're excited about that. Poor bird's done. Hey, Betsy Wilkening, it's good to hear from you here. Yes, we like all of the reuse and recycle as well. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I know Matt said any questions, reach out, put them on the forum. We talked about that, right? We like to have questions posted on the forum, and so that way everybody can see the questions, everybody can see the answers, and we hopefully avoid duplicate questions, because there's nothing like answering the same question multiple times. So definitely put it on the forum. Again, this will live, this recording, this Facebook Live will live on our competition Facebook page, and the actual videos, we'll get them posted on our Vimeo, we'll get them posted on our YouTube channel. We do both because we know, especially in the K through 12 environment, that YouTube is not always allowed. So it's often blocked in schools, and Vimeo is a teacher-friendly platform, if you will. So we'll get them posted there for you to go back and reference. But yeah, this was great. I think it's good. Let's see, we are having trouble registering. Sharon Bird, send me an email. We got you. We got your back. Jody Patterson is making the transition into our as our competition registrar and team liaison. We got your back. So just reach out to us, let us know, and we'll work through that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Looks good, everybody. All right. So with that, did I miss anything? Hey, follow us, like this. You never know when we might go live, like surprise Facebook Live, maybe at our Monterey Regional on April 23rd. You just never know. But thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day, great weekend, and keep building. We look forward to seeing you at Mate competitions this season. We're kicking them off soon. All right.